Another tropical wave is bringing widespread heavy rain across our area. Your forecast across the Caribbean and the Bahamas starts right now.
This is Meteo Mundo.
Hi friends, Rusty back here with you at Meteo Mundo. Great to see you on this Tuesday. Hope things are going well. Coming up in this video, we're tracking another tropical wave with some heavy downpours, a lot of wind associated with it, and we're going to be talking about just how widespread that heavy rain is going to get. The pattern shift towards the end of the week to try and get some of the areas desperate for some rain, a better chance for some showers as well. As we get this video started, I want to go back to some of the comments I've been reading here. Over the last several videos, many of you, doesn't matter where you are living here in the Caribbean or the Bahamas, have been talking about how hot it has been in your area. So I have a question for you. Do you think the start of 2024 has been the hottest start to a year where you live? Let me know in the comment section below. Of course, let me know where you're viewing from as well, because so many of you have talked about how hot it's been and how you're desperate for the rain to help cool things down. So I'm just very curious as we get into the video what you guys think. Let's start off. You're looking at our broad perspective here. This is our live enhanced satellite imagery, the live lightning data. I have put on the wind gusts. So we're not looking only at just wind gusts across our different reporting stations. I've got the buoy data, and I've got any ships that are out here in our area reporting information as well. Something else I can bring you here at Meteo Mundo. I kind of want to set up the scenario here on this broad perspective. So I'm going to bring on our telestration, and I'm going to talk about what's going on. The first thing we have here is yet another tropical wave moving right through the Lesser Antilles as we speak. We also have a surface trough in this area, and the combination of the two, and you can see I'm bringing on some of that data right now, the combination of the two is enhancing and lifting all of this tropical moisture, because right at that intersection we have very strong southeast surface winds, and it's taking all of this moisture and shoving it near that trough, and that's why we're getting the blow up of showers and storms. So that's kind of the broad perspective as to what's happening here on this Tuesday afternoon. Let me clear off all of that, and then we'll get into it here. I'm going to start off with what's happening in the Lesser Antilles. First of all, a couple of notes. It's wet, it's stormy, and it's somewhat windy. Barbados earlier in the day had a 40-mile-an-hour wind. We'll go from north to south. What do you say about that? Let's start off with our friends in Anguilla, St. Martin, St. Bartholomew. Now, they had some storms earlier in the day. This is the loop over the last 6 hours. At this point in time, no lightning, but we've had at least some passing showers or cloud coverage. It really is area dependent, but there's been some heavier rain from time to time in this area. Barbuda on over towards Antigua. We've had mainly a dry forecast for St. Eustatius and St. Kitts and Nevis so far, but again, additional tropical moisture moving into this area, promoting the opportunity for more storms. Not a lot in the last 6 hours over Montserrat. Again, it's very area dependent, but overall rain chances high. Tropical downpour likely is also high as well. Guadeloupe back down towards Dominica. Now you're getting into an area that's really been over that heavier moisture and continues to see some showers and some isolated storms as well. Of course, another way to just kind of look at things here, when I throw on the temperatures, obviously you can see that it's a rain-cooled, cloudier day. There's also a little bit of Saharan dust and some haze in the sky. But again, temperatures right now are mainly only in the low to mid 80s Fahrenheit. So you get that idea. I'm going to go back over to the winds here again, just to throw on those gusts so we can see where we've had the stronger winds. Now, it's been relatively wet from time to time in places like St. Lucia and St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Barbados, we've had some heavier rain in this area as well. Again, a nice 40-mile-an-hour wind there in the Bridgetown area earlier in the day. So hefty winds, a lot of moisture with this tropical wave, which is basically elongated and lined up perfectly with the entire island chain. We continue to see some scattered showers for Grenada as well. Maybe not as significant there, but there's been at least some passing showers. Same thing for Trinidad and Tobago as well. And again, there's even more moisture off towards the east. This will continue to work its way from east to west. Certainly still some rain for places like Guyana on over towards Venezuela and as far east as Suriname. And this will all move off towards the west. But again, right now, the Lesser Antilles socked in with this tropical wave and some very heavy rain from time to time. This is going to be the best chance for rain for this area, sans the far northern side of the Leeward Islands, because once that moisture moves off towards the west, you guys are going to be drying out a bit. Now, unfortunately, we haven't had a lot of rain in the ABC Islands as of yet for today, so it's still a very hot day across the Aruba, Bonaire, and Curacao. And unfortunately, relatively speaking, I think that rain chances here are going to be a little bit more limited in nature. A lot of that moisture will be moving off towards the south. We get you live to what's happening right now in Jamaica. We've had a huge blowup of storms from the eastern side of the island just offshore back build their way west over the central and the eastern portions of the island. So let me get to what's happening right now. And again, just over the last couple of hours, nice flare up of hefty storms. A lot of my friends in Kingston, Portmore, and Spanish Town have been talking about how they've had really thick cloud coverage, but no rain. I believe we have turned the tide for today, getting some rainfall across the entire eastern portions of the island, including Old Harbor and Kingston and Port Antonio on over towards Ocho Rios. Again, a huge, intense storm developing here, fair amount of lightning strikes on the northern side of the island, and an abundance of moisture. Still some scattered showers up towards St. Anne and Trelawney parishes there. You get as far west as Hanover and Westmoreland. We've had a few isolated showers, but generally speaking now, the western sides of the island that have had the better rain over the last couple of days, slightly drier for today, and the storms that were just east of the island have been able to back build into the central and the eastern portions. And again, fair amount of lightning to go along with this. There's an abundant amount of tropical moisture in play here. Now, it has not gone as far west as the Cayman Islands. Places like Grand Cayman and Georgetown going to be relatively dry the remainder of the day. This huge plume of moisture, and again, what's happening, friends, is we're getting closer to that surface trough, so it's providing lift in the atmosphere. And again, want to talk about the here and now, because there's a lot going on here and now, including some extremely heavy rain on the western portions of Haiti towards Lacaille, now building in towards Port-au-Prince, the eastern sides of Cuba beginning to slip into the Turks and Caicos towards Matthewtown. This is the same scenario for the Turks and Caicos the last several days. The storms build over eastern Cuba in the mid-afternoon and then work their way north and east across the islands for the remainder of the day. Scattered storms continue to build over the rest of Hispaniola on the Dominican Republic side, from Bajarona on over towards Azua, Santo Domingo, on over towards La Romana and Punta Cana and Samana. Scattered showers and storms. As a matter of fact here, let's pause that real quick. Just in the last couple of frames, nice little blow up there of some lightning building in over the Santo Domingo area. So again, pockets of heavy rain to go along with some widespread showers and storms. Bottom line is, it's wet in this area, it's been wet in this area, and it's going to stay wet across the Dominican Republic for the next several days. This is an area we'll continue to monitor for an abundance of storms. Our nice little complex of storms is also built in north and east. And again, this is an area I'll be monitoring for any twist, for any opportunity to become a subtropical storm. There's some drier air that's going to be ingested in it, but you can see all of the lightning strikes in that core as it's moved north and east of the islands. It's been a relatively quieter day so far for Puerto Rico and the U.S. and the British Virgin Islands. When I bring on the feels like temperatures here, you get the idea. And again, it's the same scenario I just talked about. When it's not raining, you guys have been talking about how hot it's been. Now it feels like it's 108 in Ponce. It feels like it's close to 110 in San Juan. Look at Fajardo. Again, very, very hot conditions. Same thing for St. Croix, 105. So there are heat advisories in effect, by the way, for most of the coastal areas of Puerto Rico and some of the U.S. Virgin Islands as well, including St. Croix. And again, an isolated shower trying to develop over St. Thomas and St. John and places like Roadtown to provide at least a little bit of cooling relief there. But back to the broad perspective, again, it's very clear to see the abundance of moisture in the storms in this area. Now, another area that's getting some storms right now are going to be isolated areas of the northwest Bahamas, including Andros. There actually was a severe thunderstorm warning a little bit earlier in the afternoon hours for Andros. I can show you that right now. And again, I can bring on our live radar. So let me take off the satellite data here real quick. Let me drop that off. There we go. And now we're looking at just the radar data here. Over the last couple of hours, you can see the flare-up of storms right over Andros. And I remember there was someone in the comment section who was telling me how dry Andros has been. Well, I hope you caught one of the storms here. They literally developed right over the island as they pushed off towards the east. We got a little bit of rain over New Providence in the Nassau area here. You can see some of those showers drifting on by Old Fort Bay on over towards Cable Beach. And of course, what's over there? The Atlantis, right? Over there on Paradise Island. But again, fairly isolated in nature here. Just going to let that run one more time. Had a little isolated shower there, but generally speaking, it's been Andros. And another shower tried to develop near Walker's Key, and there was a little shower over Grand Bahama. That wasn't much, but it did develop right over Lucaya and the Freeport areas where we had at least a few isolated showers. And again, I'm sure my friends in the Bahamas don't mind it because, again, like most areas, when we're not getting the rain or the storms, it is on the hotter side. Now, let's go back out to the broad perspective. I'm going to show you the water vapor imagery. Again, the areas in our northwest that desperately need the rain. We're trying to get more moisture to move into your area, okay? You can see that surge down towards Guatemala, and I'm cautiously optimistic about being able to talk about actually getting some shower chances towards the end of the week and the weekend for places like northern Honduras and Belize and even as far north as Cancun. It is a gradual thing, guys, but we are seeing this tropical moisture now beginning to move farther north and west, which we haven't seen in quite some time. So that's what's happening right now. Drop it in the comment section below again. The heavy rain that you've seen, something we'll be tracking again here at Meteo Mundo with this next tropical wave coming in. So now let's get into what's going to be happening over the next 5 days, and I have your island by island rain outlook coming up as well. The model I want to show you today, and I've been looking at all of them, is going to be the NAM model. I just believe that the NAM has a better idea of what's going to be happening here over the next few days compared to some of the other models. And while I'm setting that up, if you wouldn't mind, again, hitting that like button, I appreciate you. If you've been looking for your forecast across the Caribbean and the Bahamas, you found your home here at Meteo Mundo. Thank you so much for subscribing. I'll show you the GFS down in the southern side of the Leeward Islands because this model does cut off this area, but in general, for especially the greater Antilles and the northern side of the Leeward Islands, I think the GFS model's too dry. The NAM model's picking up on much more of what's really happening with that tropical wave and the interaction with that surface trough. Friends, you get the idea. It's just going to stay a very wet forecast. It doesn't mean you're going to get a heavy downpour every day, but between now and the early part of the weekend, this surge of tropical moisture in this area just continues. It does begin to move farther north and west, and that is one of the highlights of the forecast coming up towards the weekend. Again, trying to spiral in some of this rain, Northwest Caribbean, the Cayman Islands, Cancun, Cozumel, Belize City, San Ignacio, San Pedro Sula, Roatan, areas that have been desperately dry. We're going to try and spin this in. And by the way, there is a very wide scale twist here on the NAM model. I'll show you that. The GFS also has a very broad twist, basically right over Central America, moving up towards the north and to the west, but it's helping to feed in the moisture back into Central America. And you can almost see that twist here, that kind of clockwise spin to some of that rain. But again, just kind of looking at a couple of areas for Jamaica. Again, we just stay wet, guys. It doesn't mean that you're going to get a heavy downpour every day, but certainly the opportunity is going to be there. You're under that rich tropical plume of moisture, and that really won't change. So your rain chances remain high. We're going to see a good chance for some heavier downpours as well. Take a look at the rainfall totals coming up as well. And again, that extends over towards eastern Cuba and portions of the Turks and the Caicos. Same thing for Hispaniola. Just going to see a very wet forecast here. Again, I'm letting this run over the next 4 days, and you can continue to see scattered showers continue to plume up, mainly in the afternoon hours, but certainly could be some morning rain and a few evening showers as well. But with the heat of the day, that really helps to aid some of the chances. So high rain chances continue for Santiago de los Caballeros, Santo Domingo, on over towards Isabela there in Puerto Rico on the northwest side, Arecibo, San Juan, Ponce. For today, in Puerto Rico, it's a little bit more isolated. You can see here on the model, as we go through the remainder of the afternoon, some of the heaviest rain stays to the north, but then as we get into tomorrow and that tropical wave enters the picture, rain chances should go higher as we get into Wednesday and Thursday, and that would include all of the Virgin Islands as well, okay? So again, opportunities for heavier downpours, and I don't see a lot of folks complaining about this, again, as hot as you guys have been talking about in your area, and that's certainly playing out today with feels like numbers in these areas in that 105 to 110 range. For our friends in the Leeward Islands, again, we're gonna see the best chance for rain, generally speaking, today, all right? So you can see how wet the model is the remainder of this Tuesday. Now, For areas from Montserrat north, you're close enough to that surface trough, which is located up here, to still see some lift. Even though the tropical wave will be moving off towards the west, it's these areas, and really even as far south as Martinique, that I feel like have a decent chance for some rain continuing through at least tomorrow, and then fading a little bit Thursday and Friday, except the far northern areas. Places like Anguilla and St. Martin and St. Bartholomew, maybe as far south as St. Kitts and Nevis, Barbuda and Saba, we'll continue to see decent rain chances closer to that feature to your north. But as we go through the week, we're going to expect drier conditions to move in to places like Montserrat, Guadeloupe, Dominica, Martinique, St. Lucia, Barbados, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and then areas towards Trinidad and Tobago. And again, I'm going to show you the GFS model here coming up in just a second. As a matter of fact, let me go ahead and just switch over to that right now since we're in this area. Going to have to reset it real fast as well. But just to pick up again, now we're looking at the GFS model, but you can see that the moisture here is just a little bit more limited. Again, look, we've still got plenty of tropical waves that are still developing out here that I'll continue to monitor and we'll talk about. And also notice too that these waves are beginning to lift a little bit farther north. They're coming out of that intertropical convergence zone. They're getting more into the main development region. Now there's still some drier air to the north of this, and a lot of this moisture continues to surge into South America. But again, we're lifting in latitude some of that moisture again, which is what we typically see in June. We start to see those storms coming out of the equatorial regions and making farther north latitude to really, again, bring us the abundant moisture and the opportunity for some more tropical activity. And again, we'll follow this wave, sorry about that, we'll follow this area here out of the Southwest Caribbean. And again, just overall, it gets wetter in Central America and the northern sides of the Caribbean. Now, for our friends, let's say in like Belize City, let's see how this plays out. So today and tomorrow are still going to be mainly dry, even on the wetter NAM model. As we get into Thursday, but especially Friday, this is when we first start to see the signs of a turning point where we're at least going to have some showers. It's not a drought busting rain in one day. You guys know that. It's going to take some time, but you don't into drought without getting the first drop of rain. And that's what we're going to start to see here with the pattern change Friday and into the weekend, at least talking about the opportunity for some decent rain in this area. So something I'll continue to monitor. But again, this includes most of the Yucatan areas very desperate for some rain. We'll end the NAM model by looking at what's happening in the Bahamas, and then I'll switch over to the GFS. But again, heaviest rain will still be in the southeast Bahamas, and that next surge is coming in, again, late in the week and early into the weekend. Isolated showers for Walker's Cay and Grand Bahama and New Providence and Eleuthera and Andros. Not as much. You get central and southeast, that's where you're going to have the opportunity for some of that heavier activity. Before I switch over to the GFS model, I do really quick, actually I'm on the GFS model. Let me get back to the NAM. And then I want to show you guys the vorticity, the spin in the atmosphere, because again, that's something that I look at a lot. And I want to show you the comparison of the NAM and the GFS. And you guys can clearly see this broad twist here. Some of that energy is in the far eastern Pacific, some of it is right over Central America, and some of it is in the far Caribbean. But you can see that twist, and that's great because that lifts the moisture in the atmosphere. We get lifting air. We get rid of that subsidence, that sinking air. We need to take all that tropical moisture and lift it up. And that's what that spin is telling me. It's not necessarily a tropical disturbance, although down the road, we might have to look and see what might be happening here in the far southern Gulf of Mexico. But again, it's spiraling in all of that deep, rich tropical moisture. Let me switch over to the GFS model. And then I'll bring back on that same layer. So you're going to be looking at virtually the same information here. Let me get it out a couple of days, and then let me loop that up. So we're going to get the vorticity to pop on. There we go. And let me loop that up. So same color palette as well. You're just looking at a different model, but it's a very similar solution where there's a very broad twist right over Central America. Some of that energy is in the Pacific, some of it is in the Caribbean, a lot of it is right over places like Nicaragua, Honduras, Belize, and eventually the Yucatan. It becomes a little bit stronger here in the GFS towards the end of the period, and if I take this out just a little bit longer here, we see that twist start to try and emerge, Bay of Campeche, south central sides of the Gulf of Mexico. And that's something to monitor for next week if that holds together. There's certainly some energy left over in the northwest side of the Caribbean as well. So that's kind of that change that I'm talking about towards the end of the week. In the shorter term, this is what I expect for us here over the next 3 days. For Jamaica, 50% chance for showers. The next several afternoons is up to a 60% chance on Thursday. Again, even more widespread rain coming later in the week. Bahamas, it's about a 30% chance, but again, central southeast, better opportunities as far northwest, just like today in Andros, where they develop. Heavy rain, lightning, and even some small hail is going to be possible. Turks and Caicos, scattered showers will continue. Downpours certainly in the prospects as well. For the Dominican Republic, 70% chance today, 80% chance Wednesday and Thursday, and those high rain chances are going absolutely nowhere. After a few drier days in the Cayman Islands, beginning on Friday, you're going to get a better chance for showers. Again, Belize City, it's spotty showers. Thursday, 20% chance. I'm hoping to raise that chance Friday and into the weekend based on everything that I've been seeing. In Cancun and Cozumel, again, still basically dry. Maybe a brief shower Thursday, but again, better rain chances should be on the way. Puerto Rico, scattered today, widespread tomorrow and Thursday. U.S. and British Virgin Islands, about the same scenario. Anguilla, a 70% chance for showers today. It doesn't mean you're definitely going to get it, but the high opportunity through the Leeward Islands. And then as that next tropical wave moves away, the one that's right over us right now, we'll see our rain chances fade through Thursday. Montserrat, it's about the same situation. Barbados, again, heavy rain and very windy conditions today, and we see that moisture tail off into Thursday. Trinidad and Tobago, again, we'll see the rain chances drop as we get closer to the weekend, although there could be another surge coming in for the weekend itself, but on Thursday it's relatively dry. And unfortunately, the ABC Islands don't get a lot of rain. Now, another thing we've been talking about, the winds. First of all, look at the wave action in the Eastern Pacific. Double-digit feet waves, just incredibly high waves there. Now, in our area, we'll stay with our easterlies. We'll stay with some pretty breezy conditions. As far as seas go, they'll pick up a bit, especially over Jamaica and the greater Antilles in general, maybe 5 to 6 feet from time to time. Always check in with your local officials if you're doing some boating. Marine conditions can quickly change for us here, but again, we generally stay with the easterlies out there. Now, as far as the total rain goes, and again, let me make sure here we're far enough out, and we are. The 9th is just fine. So again, this is looking at the GFS model. I'll come back on camera here, and we're going to just take a look at some of these areas. Again, the GFS can underdo some of this convective nature, but you get the idea of just how widespread an abundant amount of rain is going to be. It's really uncanny to just see how wide of a swath, 2, 3, 4, 5+ inches of rain. There's a little 5er spot just west of Santiago de los Caballeros there. And again, on over towards Puerto Rico, again, a little bit lower here, but north, you can really see where that trough is. And again, you get up here and now you've got, double-digit inches in rain, about a foot of rain there. But unbelievable moisture up there. Now, again, that's in the open waters. That's just fine. Notice again, a little bit better chance for heftier rain towards Anguilla than compared to areas off towards the south. Again, there will be heavier rain than what the model is showing, but just giving you an idea of what we could see over the next 4 or 5 days. You can see some of the heavier rain, again, back into South America. Trinidad and Tobago would be on the edge of seeing some of that. But it's good to see some decent rain across the Lesser Antilles. Obviously, it's a tremendous amount of rain still in our northern areas, and by the end of this period, we can finally start to talk about getting better rain into Belize. Here you go. Again, this is basically days 4 and 5, right? This is going to be Friday, Saturday, and into the weekend. But hey, we've got some spotty, heavier downpours in this area, and we'll lean on that. We'll take it. Could be some pretty good rain, by the way, through portions of Honduras. Again, a huge surge of Pacific moisture is going to be coming back in, and this will be feeding and aiding some of this heftier rainfall totals. But I wanted to give you guys a nice in-depth look at that. It's going to be, again, much more isolated in nature for the Bahamas till you get to the southeast Bahamas, and then you are going to pick up a few inches of rain here or there. How about the European model over the next 7 days? It's impressive too. Look at all of that red, guys. When you get into that red, you're about 75 millimeters of rain. That's 3 inches of rain. And look how wide of a swath that we have. That's very, very impressive to see that much rain over that large of an area in early June. All right. And again, we'll continue to see those winds kicked up with those waves as well. So you've got the winds, you've got the waves, and you've got the opportunity for some pretty distinctive heavy rainfall in this area. And notice again, we're shoving some of that most impressive rainfall totals back out towards the west, the areas that have been drier. Still, again, good rain for Hispaniola and Puerto Rico and Jamaica and the Turks and the Caicos, but you can see a little bit drier area eastern side of the Caribbean, generally speaking, over the next 7 days as we push some of that richer, deeper moisture back off towards the west. I do want to show you guys a loop of the winds real quick in the gusts, because there's a couple of things that I want to play out here real quickly and just show you guys. First of all, again, we'll be watching this area. I'm going to let it run back up. There could be a spin up here of a subtropical nature, but it's fighting dry air towards the west. We're going to get some strong winds over Bermuda with a mid-latitude cyclone to their north, but that's the one right there that might try and wrap up, but it's going to be fighting dry air on the western side. We're going to have a surge of wind through the Caribbean and into the northwest side of the Caribbean here as we get into the end of the week. And that again goes along with that wider scale twist, okay? So we could have some very fresh winds over the northwest Caribbean, including Jamaica and the Cayman Islands, as we surge in that rain. So that's something I'm going to be watching for as well. But behind it, the easterlies begin to relax. And as we get into the second part of June, this becomes a scenario where now the wind shear in the Caribbean, which basically ripped apart anything that was developing last week in the southwest Caribbean, becomes much lighter and opens up the Caribbean, I think, for the potential, at least a higher potential, for a tropical disturbance in that area. Back over to the model. You saw that already. So let's talk about where else you can find us, friends. We're on Instagram, TikTok, X, Facebook, mymediamundo@gmail.com. As always, you have a specific question about the forecast, drop it in the comment section below. I asked you that question. Is this the hottest start to the year that you've ever had where you lived? As much as we've talked about the heat, let me know. And again, I appreciate you guys for liking this video and of course for subscribing as well. You have a great rest of your Tuesday. I'll keep you updated and I'll see you tomorrow right here at Meteo Mundo.